Now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like or you dislike, or even if you just want to outsmart me on something I said, go ahead, shoot us a quick take, 219-413-9405. And of course, we will play your take back on our next episode. And shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode. Go ahead and get $20 off your first ticket purchase when you use the promo code TheRunPodcast. Now, this code can only be applied for first-time users on the mobile app or the website. So, I'm not sure about you, but it's a bunch of concerts, it's a bunch of football games, college football games, all of that stuff. So, I got to go ahead and create me an account, use that promo code, get that $20 discount. Anyway, look, man, speaking of football, of course, we're prime time in the season. We had opening week. Happened in this past Sunday and all through the week, actually, because it started off with the Thursday night football, but we're just going to escalate straight to Sunday because I witnessed some good football, I witnessed a lot of bad football. Kind of goes both ways. But in this particular instance, I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons and the Pittsburgh Steelers game here because the Steelers won 18-10 over the Atlanta Falcons. And the big shocker about this game was the Steelers won without scoring a single touchdown. They literally did not score one touchdown. They kicked 6 field goals and beat the Atlanta Falcons. So it was just wild to watch this game because the whole time I'm watching the Atlanta Falcons and I just know they're going to strike, score a touchdown again and just wrap the game up, kind of put it out of distance. But it was just weird because the Steelers stayed around. They didn't really get anything flowing on their offense, but they stayed solid on the defensive end. And eventually they kept kicking field goals. And here we are. They ended up winning the game. But let's break it down because there was a lot of things that happened. So first off, the Steelers had some lockdown defense. I want to give credit where it's due because it's due to the Steelers right now. Their defense was impeccable this game. Sent Kirk Cousins through hell. TJ Watt was pissing me off all game watching this. TJ Watt is a monster. He was a leader in his position all last season. And now you can see why at the start of the season, he's already carried that same sort of momentum. And then not only was TJ Watt a huge problem on that defensive line for the Steelers, but you also had Montravius Adams, who was also a huge impact on that defensive line. Honestly, the entire Steelers defensive line was just causing ruckus and causing chaos for the Atlanta Falcons. They kept the pressure on Kirk Cousins, couldn't really get a pass off, was swallowed up a bunch of times throughout the game. And I mean, honestly, some of the things that happened aren't on the stat sheet, but if you look there, you'll see TJ Watt had 2 sacks, but the things that happened that aren't on there were because of penalties. So in the penalties, if these things would have counted, we saw 2 additional sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, all just from TJ Watt on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was impeccable, man. And he took a lot of offense away from the Atlanta Falcons. And he was just a true home wrecker, honestly. So first and foremost, the defense was solid from the Steelers. I don't want to discredit them at all. Atlanta Falcons had a lot of struggles going on, which I'll touch on in a second. But even on the offensive end, the Pittsburgh Steelers were pretty damn impressive. A lot of people came into the season hating on Justin Fields, saying he's not ready and just kind of clowning Justin Fields based on his prior experience with the Chicago Bears. And we seen a different side of Justin Fields. When he had some solid protection by the O-line, he made plays to Pickens, and he picked us apart. He picked the Atlanta Falcons apart whenever he had time to actually throw the ball. They handed the ball off to Najee Harris. He did his thing running the ball. So when you look at all the different weapons that Justin Fields has now compared to what he had, it's a clear difference of night and day. And it also shows why they had some sort of success running the offense there in Pittsburgh, even though the game was in Atlanta. So I'm happy for Justin Fields. I'm glad he played well. He completed over 70% of his passes, threw for 156 yards, no interceptions, was very patient, took care of the ball, and ultimately controlled the offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to help them win the game. Even though they didn't score, which I thought they would have, they still were able to continuously put points on the board, which gave them the win. The Atlanta Falcons, on the other hand, they were unable to even put points on the board. The offense was a shit show. It was struggling all game. We've seen maybe at least one drive where it was kind of solid. Actually, two. There was two drives from the Atlanta Falcons that was actually solid. And I witnessed one of them was a touchdown. You ended up getting it to Kyle Pitts. Everyone was happy about that, especially the fantasy owners. But there was another drive that was ruined because of sloppy play. There was a fumble in the red zone that caused them another potential touchdown or another potential 3 points that could have been on the board and helped them out. There was a lot of simple mistakes. Kirk Cousins threw multiple interceptions. Threw an interception earlier in the game, and hey, you kind of had to let it slide. It's the beginning of the game. You can make up for it. But then you get a game-winning drive, and you fail to even get your team in field goal position. You fail to even get a fair shot to win the ball game. You throw another interception. It was bad. It was off. It was awful. And from the Falcons offense, one of the things I noticed is it was just a lot of thinking going on. It was a lot of trying to figure things out at the last second, and that ultimately led to the stupid penalties that they received. You can't do that. You can't really just be out on the field thinking a lot. We all know any professional sport, any sport you're playing, about muscle memory and reacting. We didn't see a lot of that from the Atlanta Falcons. They were struggling. It was a lot of confusion out there on the offensive end, and it showed. I know it's week one. I don't think it's time to, really panic, even though I'm telling you the offense didn't look good. The defense was getting picked apart. I know I'm telling you, hey, it was looking bad, but I really don't think it's time to panic for the Atlanta Falcons just because it's week one, obviously. And we've seen the potential that offense has. We've seen the potential that the defense has. Both sides got to clean some things up. But above all, Kirk Cousins can throw the ball, and they can actually get the ball out and make something happen in the air. And then the Falcons, they did also heavily rely on the ground game, which moved the ball fairly solid against a pretty damn good defense as well. So it's a couple different things to be proud of. If you are standing there for the Atlanta Falcons and you're feeling a little bit down because of this loss. But above all, Steelers definitely earned this game. They played solid, and it was well deserved. So anyway, look, we got a side note here because above the NFL, there was a lot of college football going on as well. College football, some upsets happened. The big Alabama game was almost very scary for a lot of Alabama fans. Notre Dame, they were upset by Northern Illinois. It was absolutely insane. And, watching that game, just playing it back, I think you got to remember on any given Saturday or whatever day college teams are going head to head, you got to be aware, man. Things changed because of the way NIL deals work now. Now it's not necessarily, this school is a huge football school and this school is a MAC school, or they're a smaller tiered school, they're a Sun school, or whatever conference that is. They're a small school. You don't have to worry about teams being deemed a football school and a team who's just an academic grade school. No, you don't have to worry about that. Now you got to worry about NIL because at this point, it's not about the history of a program and how well this school has been historically. It's about how much money are they throwing to build a new roster, and are they picking the right guys? Because seeing a number 5 team in Notre Dame go down to Northern Illinois, not saying that those guys aren't good or whatever, but that's a damn shame. That just shows you it does not matter what name your school has, what logo your school has. At the end of the day, you got to go out there and play against another elite school or elite athletes that could have went somewhere else, but they decided to go take advantage of the opportunity where they are. So just keep your eyes out. Don't get too comfortable. Some of y'all got these easy schedules on the college football schedule, and don't get too comfortable because just know it might be some sleeper schools out there. They might not have the numbers to be ranked. They might not have the popularity to be ranked and voted in to the top 12 and all of that. But just know they are some animals because even Alabama, they struggled. They struggled for a hot minute against South Florida. It was looking scary all game, and the score didn't really reflect that if you just check the score and seeing what happened. But the score also doesn't tell you when you look at it at a first glance that Alabama was struggling all the way up into the fourth quarter, that they didn't pull away until they scored 28 points in the fourth quarter. So, hey, just be aware. Michigan got spanked by Texas. There's a lot of smaller schools. U of I, they ended up beating Kansas, who was ranked number 19. There was a lot of schools out there that they don't have the notoriety, or they don't have the name of a football school, but they made something happen. So got to be happy about that. Anyway, look, man, shoot us a quick take, 219-413-9405. And of course, we'll play your take back on our next episode. Look, we got some news for the run coming up in just a sec, so don't go anywhere. We will have some stuff about college football, the NFL, all of that stuff in just a sec. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.